Cool. It is my pleasure today to introduce you to our speaker. Joe Justice applied Agile to automotive manufacturing in 2006, founded Team WIKISPEED, and set 4 world records. He actually beats Tesla. Joe joined Tesla in 2020, where he operated Agile at Tesla from the company headquarters. Now, before I give the floor to Joe, I would like you to know that we are using Slido to do Q&A. Here is the link. I'm putting the link in the chat. And you can also see that on your screen. You can use the QR code shown on the screen. Please put your questions in Slido as you listen to the talk today. You can also vote on the questions you see there, and Joe will be answering questions from Slido later on. All right, without further ado, Joe, take it away, all yours.
Oh, Munway, it's awesome to be a part of the team for SFBABAM. Thank you so much for having me. And my apologies if you hear a bunch of concrete drilling behind me. There's a bunch of concrete drilling happening behind me that I wasn't aware about till right now, like it started 6 seconds ago. I will do my best. I have prepared a virtual tour of Tesla's mothership, as we called it at Tesla, the Fremont, California facility, which used to give tours. So if any of you have been on a tour, you're going to see some that might be familiar, and then I'll explain how it's used to make the sprints as short as they are in hardware, which was my job operating Agile at Tesla. Maybe you see maybe the most boring piece of information I have, which is hello from me. Can I get a thumbs up if anyone can see my screen? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. And let me expand my viewing window. So if people, yeah, now I can see more thumbs ups. Thank you, everyone. Hi, I'm Joe Justice. That is my real name. I have an office in Tokyo and an office in Hawaii. I've been a developer at Microsoft and a Scrum Master for Bill Gates. Bill split projects into small sizes so they could all be executed at once. And for me, that was an introduction to large scale agility. Is how can you have one big idea that's executed by many teams in parallel without dependencies on each other? And I'll try to show more of that in action in a moment. I then also worked with the leadership team at Amazon. And Jeff Bezos, then the CEO of Amazon and still the CEO of Blue Origin, insisted on small team sizes, about 6 people. And the reason was, if there was an issue of contention, Bezos wanted the team to be able to solve it in team collaboratively, not just one leader. And if there's more than 6 people, there's so many communication pathways that a leadership dynamic emerges where people just defer to one person. There's too many people to try to discuss to deeply understand each other's points of view. So they deferred to something like rank, which Bezos didn't want. So that really reaffirmed the idea of small teams. And then from what Bill Gates taught me, many small teams working in parallel. That structures the company and created something called Justice's Law. It's one of the 2 things that did get named after me. And it's a company structured out of small teams where the product is modular, right? It's a modular architecture of the product, and each module can be iterated separate from each other. And I'll show you how we did that at Tesla. I worked in Agile hardware at Tesla. In fact, I founded the Agile at Tesla group. Elon Musk speeds up all operations to keep the company exciting. My passion is to bring faster innovation and happier developers. And I use developers for any work, hardware, software, legal, accounting, procurement. I call them all developers because you're developing good marketing, for example. I work with translators to certify Agile hardware developers in Asia, Europe, and the Americas. And I'd like to show you my classroom. And by that, I mean a virtual tour of Tesla. From 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., I work Hawaii time. I teach classes in Japan. From 4 p.m. to 10 p.m., I teach classes in Europe. From 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., I sleep. From 2 a.m. to 8 a.m., I teach classes on the Americas time zone, Canada, Chile, Mexico, North America, United States, etc. From 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., I go to the gym and I eat. I eat one meal a day. I don't have clients every day, so I sleep or do projects on other days. Like I work on micro houses and I'm working towards a space house, houses that can be put into orbit by the Starship system. You may have learned about that in some of the podcasts I've been on. I use agile methods for my daily life and business. And I believe happiness is trying to figure out what our inner values are, the best we know them now, and trying to live those. And I think that's all that's required to be happy. And I actually think that's helpful when we talk about Tesla, because Tesla is so intense that if your inner values are in conflict with what the company is doing, you'll burn out in a week or faster. But if the company values mimic your inner values, it's actually an extremely invigorating and restful place to work. Let me zoom out. Does anyone see something that says Agile Hardware Professional? Okay, thank you. I see some thumbs up. Wonderful. Welcome to the Agile Hardware Developer class in miniature, in a small version. Our virtual classroom is the Fremont, California, USA Tesla Factory and Design Center. We call it the mothership. Tesla works in short cycles as short as 3 hours, with teams as big as 50 people. I operated Agile at Tesla in 2020, and I'm going to show how to practice design, build, test, and manufacture new hardware multiple times per day. When I work with people online, the first we need to do is an open space around what we want to build. This is how teams are launched at Tesla. We use open space. So when you first become an employee, in your first 4 hours, you get a bunch of apps installed on your phone, whatever phone you were employed by, Android, iOS, something else, whatever it is, your phone gets about 28 custom apps loaded in your first 4 hours of employment. And what most of those apps do is show you what the machine learning is saying about the cars. So the cars gather a huge amount of analytics. It's like Facebook. Facebook has a virtual profile, a virtual twin for all 7.2 approximate billion people on Earth, whether they have a Facebook account or not. And Facebook tries to track who your friends are, who you work with, what type of computer you have, what type of phone you have, when you sleep, what you eat, what you like to buy, what type of clothes you like to wear, what type of clothes your friends like to wear. Facebook tries to track that. Well, Tesla does the same thing about their cars. When they are driven fast, who's driving them, what position they sit in, what kind of music they like, what time of the day, where's work, where's home, do they like to go to coffee shops, what coffee shops, who do they meet there? So Tesla has massive analytics and it's extremely intelligent. And your apps from your first 4 hours of employment show you what customers like and don't like right now. So when you arrive in the factory, which is where design happens, you don't have to wait for Elon Musk to tell you what to do. Your phone and then monitors everywhere show you what customers like and don't like right now. And what you do is you do open space to decide what team you're on around those objectives. So things like customers don't like the paint quality. Okay, who here has a plan of how to improve paint quality in the next 6 hours or the next 3 hours, maybe the next 12 hours, but that would be really long-term thinking. And then you make a swarm of anywhere from 1 to 50 people and you address that issue. So you might buy a robot or change nozzles or change mixing or work with BASF who's on site, like all the suppliers, to say, what are we going to do to improve paint quality today? In fact, that was one of the hot issues when I was there, which is publicly in the news, so I can talk about that. In the class, when I teach this, we do the same thing. I provide a set of actual objectives that we worked on at Tesla, and I have people self-organize around them using open space. And then they tell me who's on what team and what management structure they're going to use. We use something called a group agile board, which is a large board with a row for every team. And that's how I visualized all the work at Tesla. So at a glance, we can see who's on what team today, because this changes every day, what their trend is towards their goal, what their goal is, and who's accountable for cost and schedule, so I know who to talk to, and who's accountable for Kaizen or continuous improvement, so I know who to talk to. Scrum is not mandatory at Tesla. I really like Scrum because it's super simple. There's only 3 roles. So I use a lot of Scrum, but you totally don't have to. What we need are accountable, fast teams. And the majority of the work is done in 3-hour sprints. Here is an overview, or I'll close the frames, an overview of Fremont, California. This is a bird's eye view. And I'd like you to follow a day in working at Tesla. I would drive in on a road called Cato Road in my Model 3. It's one of the first Model 3s made. Mine's black. I call my Model 3 Lenny. So Lenny and I drive in on Cato Road, and we pull into the employee parking area. And I'd park right around here, and I'd hand my car to a valet. And the valets charge all your cars. You don't have to drive an electric car, but they prefer it. And you get a free charge. The valets take your car and charge your car. And then you enter the office. Now, the office is open space collaborative work environment, and it's typically empty because all the action happens behind the office. In the office, it's mostly empty. I mean, you can drop off a laptop or a phone to get repaired or something, or there's a gym and showers and stuff, but it's mostly empty. What they do have here is excellent barista and baristas. You can pick the bean type you want, you can pick the roast you want, you can pick the grind you want, and you can order any espresso drink you want or coffee drink, and they will try to make it world class. And they really try. They're excellent baristas and baristas. And there's many beans, many grinds, many roasts to choose from. And I would typically start my day with 4. So I balance 4 of these things. And the reason I stress that is it really felt like a luxury. And this was available to anyone. It's truly classless. There's no levels. There's no management levels. Everyone is treated the same from your first 4 hours of employment. And you all get at least awesome coffee if you like coffee. And there's a lot of other perks, and they're really nice. It's quite luxurious. So you're balancing these 4 cups of coffee in my case, because that's what I did to start my day. And the first thing you pass is what's called the bamboo line. It's where all the cars put themselves through automated testing. I'll zoom in and show a picture of it. In the course, this is where we do sprint review and sprint retrospective, because that's what it is. And I've got a now infamous meme of Elon Musk. And that's what's happening here. Here's what the bamboo line looks like. Every single Tesla is potentially unique. There is real-time deployment of new hardware all across these cars every minute, and approximately 3 hours on average for every car. That means you can't go through road legal certification once a year or once every 5 years like BMW or Daimler or Toyota does. You have to actually put every single car through road legal homologation testing, because there could be a completely unique glue or alloy or large piece of metal, software or electronics on just that car, because they change so fast. So this is sprint review. Every car has it. And this is where autopilot came from. It came from something called factory mode. Factory mode is DevOps in hardware. Factory mode is automated testing to the complete road legal requirement standard. And there are administrative officials that show up to work at Tesla every day, because they're not employed by Tesla, they're employed by certification bodies, and they have the same nice coffee as everybody else. And the bamboo line is very attractive, as you can see here. And they certify each car coming off the line, because each car is potentially completely unique. I need to stress this point. And that's, now factory mode is automated test. Every single non-destructive test the cars put themselves through. This is called continuous integration and continuous deployment. It's the same as software. All the destructive testing is done virtually on large monitors over every car, and it's done continuously. It never stops, it never starts. It's all the time. So every car, there's over 1 million Teslas now, and they're continuously in the cloud and co-located, never stop putting themselves through simulated crash testing. It never ends. So if one of those tests turns red because the simulation became more accurate of a car that was made before, field technicians drive out to that car and make the improvement for free at any time, anywhere in the world. And you have to. With this speed of release, there's no other choice. And then in the course, we see a sprint review at SpaceX, and we do retrospectives for hardware. And then we talk about how that funnels into job descriptions. But here in this course, here in this keynote, I don't have time to go through all the detail. So you pass the bamboo line as your first thing coming in. And then I would walk past a facility called South Paint, and I would enter a facility called North Paint. North Paint is where Elon Musk sleeps. There's a YouTube video of Elon showing his sleeping bag in the North Paint building, and that's about 3 meters from where I started my day every day. So I would come in with my 3 coffees, and there's Elon's sleeping bag. And the company is totally flat. Elon works the line. Elon actually spends most of his time at SpaceX now. But when he's at Tesla, he's drilling holes in metal on the assembly line. He's gluing car parts together. He's programming robots and getting them unstuck. He's sitting on the floor with all the other folks, typing on a laptop to create CAD and CAM and computational fluid dynamics and finite element analysis, which is what coding is in hardware. Coding in hardware is CFD, FEA, and CAD. Computational fluid dynamics, finite element analysis, computer-aided design, and G-code, robotics language for assembly of this stuff and making this stuff. That's what coding is. It's really the same. And compiling is making the hardware. Robots, drilling, gluing, some of it's made by humans, most of it's automated. That's your compile step. And you want compile to be less than a day so you get fast feedback, just like software. Some of us have worked on software builds where compiling took more than a day, and it made it much harder to make progress. Well, same with hardware. So you want compile, if you can, to be less than 5 seconds. And I'll show you some of that. So here's me walking into Tesla on my birthday. I only dressed like that on my birthday. I then went into one of the changing rooms, which is kind of like a fitness facility. And then I put on my actual work clothes. Every job at Tesla lifts 20 kilograms a day. Every job. There is no desk job. Operating Agile at Tesla, I was in the closest to a thought leader position you could have. And I lifted 20 kilograms multiple times a day. I drilled stuff. I worked with robots. I made stuff just like Elon. Now, what makes that work really well is I never had to make a report. I never had to watch a report ever. I did not make one presentation or PowerPoint, even operating Agile at Tesla. And I never saw one ever. Because who would you present to? Elon has worked your position. So if you say, we need to buy a piece of land to make a larger battery plant because we're tied up in these areas of lines, there's a backlog there. Elon says, yeah, I know, I was working that position this morning. It's totally backlogged. I agree. So of course you don't have to make a presentation. And you don't actually have to ask Elon. From the moment you're hired, you are empowered. You can spend money. You can buy robots. You can buy land. Now you're accountable for that decision. And if you make a really silly decision a few times in a row, you'll probably be asked to leave. But if it's truly was working with good intention, people will probably just keep collaborating with you to improve your decision-making intuition. Only bad intention is penalized, right? Mistakes are fine. How else can you go this fast? So from the moment you're hired, you have spend authority. I had stuff bought, not from my first hour, I could have, but I didn't know enough, right? But a few retrospectives in, I changed some of the flows of the factory just like everybody else does. Now, how did this all happen? In 2006, I started building cars with Agile methods, and some of the people on this call have built cars with me. We airdropped a bunch of tools and pieces of carbon fiber and aluminum into, where were we? Potsdam, I think, in Germany, in Europe. at Agile testing days and we built a car in 45-minute sprints. I think it took us 3 sprints. We were the first car company to accept cryptocurrency. We were on the cover of Bitcoin magazine #3. This made me learn a lot about Agile and automotive manufacturing starting in 2006. That company is called WIKISPEED. And then I did operate a race team in Nuremberg, Germany. That's arguably the most famous racetrack in the world. And we won the 6-cylinder class, so Porsches, BMWs, but not in one of our cars. Our cars were really good, but not good enough. We actually won it in a BMW M3 CSL that we race prepped, operated by Team WIKISPEED. So we used all Agile methods to campaign that car. And we won arguably the most famous race in the world at the most famous racetrack in the world in 2014. And here's what it looks like. Remember when I said Bill Gates started every single meeting? When I was Scrum Master for Bill, he started every single meeting with, how much of this can we do in parallel? Well, here's what it looks like. The product, whatever we're making, is split into parallel executable modules. That means they don't wait on each other. Now that means it actually looks a lot like the Spotify model. Oh, I don't have that image here. If you have central procurement, every team would be in a queue behind procurement. That'd be too slow. So every team has their own procurement. You have to. There's no other way to go this fast. You can't wait on central procurement. You have to have your own posters on the wall or virtual backgrounds that say who are the best suppliers today in terms of best price, fastest turnaround, highest quality. And we'll update those for each other from a central pool where you pull the best suppliers today list or best suppliers this hour. And then buy from the list, or if you think you know better, update the list and buy. You have full authority. Who has the best price on coiled aluminum today? Who's treating us the best today for FANUC robots? Go ahead, buy. You can't wait on central procurement. It's way too slow. Same with CAD or CAM or computational fluid dynamics is a big thing. Heat propagation out of batteries, that type of thing. You can't wait on a central queue for that if you want to go this fast. So every team that needs heat propagation simulation has their own people skillful in that in their own team. And these are formed through open space every shift. So there's 12-hour shifts. You could do 4 6-hour shifts. You don't have to do long shifts. What you want is continuous operation, so the work never stops. And you can do that with 4 6-hour shifts, 2 12-hour shifts like Tesla chooses, or you can actually even do it with a bunch of 3-hour shifts and really have a relaxed time. You know, it's as you like, but the goal is continuous work. The reason why that's important is it enforces that you don't own anything. So you know someone else is going to be taking this on today, and you're going to get it improved when you come back tomorrow or even later today. That enforces an XP value called shared ownership. And the net effect of that is you end up making a better product for the company and not trying to show how cool you are. It really helps you leave your ego at the door and focus on the mission, on what's important, on the value. And that's enforced by these continuous overlapping shifts. No work stops when you leave. You don't have anything that's yours. No tool is only yours. You hand it physically to the next person multiple times a day, usually about every 3 hours. You hand tools over. No one owns any individual tool, not even Elon. And so sometimes you'd get a tool from Elon or hand a tool to Elon. And yeah, that feels pretty cool because he works the floor like everybody else. Now there are company as a service teams. If packaging up something and shipping it to another facility is not the bottleneck, we would use FedEx or UPS or USPS or DHL or any courier. If they're fast enough, sure, that doesn't have to be in your team. If you have a known stable interface with your shipper or the coffee team and they're not your bottleneck, that's fine. They can be a separate team. But if any team becomes a bottleneck, they get a backlog of continuous improvement from the teams that they're bottlenecking. And if that doesn't work, the teams don't wait for them to improve. They assume that function inside their team. At Tesla, for example, the facilities organization is so good. And Michael, I'm going to ask you to mute. You have a really cool keystroke sound, but it's propagating Michael Chan or Michelle Chan. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you. Please do talk anytime though. I just didn't want the typing sound. The facilities team is so good. They will grant access to any new employee. And if malaction is found, and super rare, but if malaction is found, they will revoke access in less than 5 seconds. They're so good that people don't need their own facilities in team. You simply send a chat because you have all these custom apps and most communication is through chat. There's no meetings. I don't, sorry, some things are obvious once you've done it, but maybe some people don't know. There's no meetings, you just chat all the time. And the group chats are dynamic and it's not Slack or anything, it's chat. And that replaces all meetings. If someone needs to know, that means they're doing the work with you. If they need to know more than chat, they're doing it with you. Otherwise, they don't need to know because there's no approval, there's no presentation, right? And since everyone works everywhere, they know, right? So a chat is enough. So anyway, so facilities is fast enough. Teams don't need their own facilities. The coffee team is awesome enough. Teams don't need to go out and get their own coffee. There is a funding team that makes sure there's mountains of money that all the teams can pull from in real time. But it's not their job to bottleneck money. It's their job to make sure there's mountains of money. So the master of coin, formerly CFO or also still CFO, their job is to make sure there's mountains of money that the teams can pull from. I mean, that is required. Money still matters, but there's no gatekeeping system in front of it. It's here are mountains of money, act in best interests. And if anyone detects that you're truly not acting in best interests, you will be held accountable for that and removed from the company. But if you make silly mistakes, you know, we trust you. You saw my mentors. Here's what it looks like. You have, this is the compile step. So you have many teams building things, new things, and these robots then it's their job to compile, to do continuous integration. And they're going to hold a part that they've never held before multiple times a day. About every 3 hours, at least one of these robots will hold a part it's never held before. So this looks pretty normal. It's not. What's different here is the robots have something called flexible end effectors or flexible work holding, because they're going to hold a part they've never held before multiple times a day. Now, robots are fine mating parts together that are really complex. It doesn't bother robots at all. So you could have extremely complex mating points or interfaces. But humans have difficulty with that. It creates something called cognitive complexity. And humans are a necessary element for innovation. Yeah, all design decisions go through AI steps as well, but human intuition and human aesthetic is super important for design. Yes, augmented by artificial intelligence or at least basic machine learning. But humans are absolutely in the loop for all of this. For humans to think really quickly about the mating interface, we want them so simple. We want them to be basically flat planes that stick together with hole locations that bolts or rivets go in, and then nice creased lines for adhesive. That's not for the robots, that's for humans. That's called reducing cognitive complexity. It's like a simple API. You could have a really elegant API in software, but if it's very complex, very complicated, humans won't use it as much, or you'll have just a rare set of super users. So same concept here. We wish for everything in Tesla to be walk up simple. You could walk up to it and in seconds immediately know if you can contribute value or not. And to do that, the interfaces are made as simple as practical. And Elon wrote, sheer magnitude of the entire production system is hard to appreciate. Almost every element of production is more than 75% automated. It's robots. Only wire harness and general assembly, which are less than 10% of production costs, are primarily manual. And I wrote, automation in software and hardware and management with test in the loop is in fact the answer. Humans are for creative problem solving. Automation is for everything else. And of course, this is what SpaceX does as well. They split the rockets into modules that can be tested completely independently from each other. So here are boosters from the Falcon 9. And those are launched all by themselves with their own upper stage and their own crew capsule Dragon or cargo capsule or satellite fairings. Those are actually, and they always were intended to be boosters for the Falcon Heavy, and they are. And those are completely separate so they can be tested independently. And then those engines are then evolved for the Starship system. And what you have is an extra large system with no one owner. Instead, it's split into small and extra small projects that can be built in parallel: designed, analyzed, built, test, deploy. There's no central design. This is ludicrous compared to normal rockets. The number of rocket engines changes dynamically. I don't know how many people know that. Like SpaceX used to be on 1-year sprints. I think I have this visually. I'm skipping around. I do have this visually. SpaceX used to be on 1-year sprints. They're on 2-day sprints now. The number of engines in the rockets changes every 2 days. And if you were to talk to Lockheed Martin Space Systems, where I've worked, or Ariane Group and the United Launch Alliance, where I've worked, or Boeing Aerospace, where I've been lucky enough to work, they would say, no, you can't change the number of engines because that will change the thickness of the entire rocket. It will change the support structure in the entire rocket. It'll even change the alloy we use. That means we're not using known stable interfaces. That is broken thinking. That is waterfall thinking. Yes, the stress on the rocket will change. So you do overbuild the rocket. Oh, but then it might be 100 kilograms too heavy. Yes, but that means we've deferred the cost of waiting and we can launch the rocket tomorrow. And the launch isn't delayed 2 years. And this is why the Ariane 6 still hasn't even launched, right? And SpaceX launches 20 Starships in the last 2 years, where Ariane is still in discussion, right? So you reduce these dependencies through known stable interfaces by having independent, parallel testable, small, extra large projects. And you have launches every week or more often if you can. There's now 3 launches a week on average. I created a model of this when I was working with the Center for Military Leadership. That was after working on the F-22 and F-35 Joint Strike Fighters and working with the Saab Gripen team on the Saab Gripen Joint Strike Fighter in Sweden. And then the Special Forces in the United States and in Australia. Then I was brought to the Center for Army Leadership, and they taught me when a government is overthrown, that's called an insurgency. And if you want to tactically defend against a government being overthrown, that's called counterinsurgency. And they said, really, a company is the same as a government. A government is just a company with a monopoly on violence. And by the way, that's Elon Musk's standpoint as well. So by the way, Agilists in the call, your agile transformation tactics are the exact same one for government. Government is a company at the limit. There's zero difference. So it'd be impossible to say, I don't like companies, but I like government. Or I don't like government, but I like companies. They're the same. They're exactly the same. So what the Army Leadership Academy and group taught me is, how do you have a peaceful transition of leadership? How do you do an agile transformation? And they mapped the vocabulary of an agile transformation, the way I was doing it, to how special forces defend against or enact a peaceful insurgency, which you can see here. And that is now the method I use when I do leadership workshops. It's taken directly from decades of what makes peaceful transformation of power at the very large company level. And I wrote a book about it. It's now available in Japanese and English. The German version is about halfway. If you'd like to assist with German, please tweet to me at @JoeJustice. The Portuguese version also needs assistance. The Spanish version is almost done. If you'd like to proofread Spanish or French, I'd love your help. Next, I'd like to do Hindi and Swahili. Please let me know if you know anyone that would like to assist with proofreading or editing so that we can really get this information out. I'd like to have a personal note here. Here is Lenny. Lenny is one of the first Model 3s made. Lenny's a lot like my best friend. I did convert Lenny into a race car when I was working at Tesla Fremont. We go all over the world together. We've gone coast to coast in North America 2.5 times, and Lenny is now with me in Hawaii. Here's actually Hawaiian time. Yeah, Japan time is actually 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. for me. That was central time mapping that I showed before. And thank you so much for this part. I have plenty more information I'd like to share, but I'm way more interested in having a dynamic conversation. And maybe I'll share more of the factory map. We've only done 2 out of 10 stops. Well, you can always take the course. I do it every month on Europe time. It's called Agile Hardware Developer. So if you want all the information, you can always join the class. So I'd like to do comments and questions. Yes, Tesla works in 3-hour sprints or faster in hardware. Yes, the teams are up to 50 people big. For collaborative problem solving, the teams aren't bigger than 6. But once we've agreed on an approach and it's time to execute, yeah, we swarm with really big teams. Who you're on a team with can change as often as every 3 hours because we do basically open space. Scrum isn't required, but I recommend it because it's so simple. There. Yay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joe. I believe there are lots of questions in Slido. And JF, do you mind showing Slido so we can start answering those questions?
Here, I'll make the screen bigger so I can read. Oh, awesome. What work have you done to figure out your own internal values? I'm a 5th degree black belt in Shaolin Kung Fu, and everything past 2nd degree black belt is a tremendous amount of meditation. We call it internal training. I mean, you're trying to figure out how to strengthen your diaphragm so that you can press more breath against your diaphragm and forcibly exhale at the same time you snap your fingers out so you can break through leather or like break someone's cheek with a finger flick or, you know, pop an eyeball. And the amount of meditation to be able to even feel your diaphragm at a detailed level, you know, is ridiculous. So hours and hours and hours of seated, standing, silent, speaking, meditation for a decade and a half has a side effect of making much more clear what's truly important. Sorry, concrete drilling is happening. So I'd say meditation of all types has a lot of value. Then writing. To formalize, writing to formalize, and then trying to articulate what was written. And then it never ends, right? Because you get new information every day. So the values evolve every day. What are some drawbacks to Tesla's culture and ways of working? There's a lot that Agilists know that Tesla doesn't yet. So Elon Musk isn't, let's make the ultimate Agile company. Elon Musk says, pace of innovation is the only thing that matters. And that is actually really compatible with short release cycles with feedback and with empowered teams for quick decision-making. It's really compatible. But Elon isn't leading with, let's make the ideal Agile workplace. Elon's leading with, pace of innovation is the only thing that matters. Now, Agilists have figured out stuff like open space technology, the law of 2 feet, bumblebee, butterfly. Agilists have figured out things like value stream mapping. Well, actually, lean aficionados, but Agilists are familiar as well. These help increase the pace of innovation. So Agilists can bring tools that help Musk achieve Musk's goal, and Agilists know a lot about sustainable pace, because pace of innovation, it's sustained pace of innovation. How can you make this a job you love for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 decades? And that is sustained pace, maximum area under the curve of innovation, not just today, over the next 6 decades. And Musk gets it. Musk loves it. So more and more Agile practices, as long as they never slow down the pace of innovation, because there is some stuff that people call Agile that slows down the pace of innovation. And that doesn't fit. Now, but stuff that lets you increase innovation today and in 10 years, not burn out, fits. And there's something called Agile Lean Europe, or ALE is the acronym. And what they do is they bring your kids and your pets into the Agile conference. And it's not like daycare and pet care. They actually do the same thing. They have open space tracks. It's still Agile practice. And What did I want to say about that? That's the type of thinking that Agilists can bring even more of to the Musk companies to help it scale. And if you'll pardon me for a moment, I'm getting an urgent notification. So maybe Ron Cortell can take the next question and Debbie Bray could take the one after that.
Happy to help. Where are we up to?
I think the next question is, does this include designing components or is it just about operations and manufacturing?
Wow, that's way out of my depth. Yeah, I was hoping it was Agile related.
So how about this? We actually have a little feedback that we would actually like you to fill in. So while waiting for Joe to come back, JF, do you mind if you bring up the poll and have people actually fill in a little bit of the poll before we continue? All right, so you see here in the poll, how useful was the talk today? And this is in Slido. If you can actually give us some feedback there, would be great. Right, we'll give it another minute.
Oh.
Please simply be honest. That's all I'm asking. Please simply be honest.
All right, I'm gonna wait a little bit more because we have almost 100 people. So let's see if we can get a few more answer. All right. I'm gonna wait 30 more seconds and then I'm gonna stop this one. All right, I think that's good enough. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. All right, let's go back to the question. Joe?
Okay, there are two things have evolved. One is I didn't realize how much concrete drilling could possibly happen right now. And two, my business partner has just let me know that the course I've got starting in 4 minutes is linked to the same Zoom account. So I have a proposed solution, and that is for SFBABAM to tweet all of for SFBABAM to tweet all of these questions to me, and for anyone to answer. I'll answer too. But I'm not the only Agile expert in this call. So please, every question, please tweet to me at Joe Justice, which I just put in the Zoom chat too. And I will answer, and I'll ask SFBABAM or anyone also answer, because you can get better answers than mine, I'm sure. You know, we're a community, right? So please do that. And then I'll agree to do a podcast next week with JF and Munway that can be posted with clean audio. So if you really want to hear more, and we'll consider any of these questions as input for the podcast, or I'll ask JF and Munway to consider that. So we'll have a clean audio podcast that I'll agree to do next week. And please tweet. But unfortunately, I need to disconnect to have the class start even by my business partner because it's a shared account. That's my bad, sorry. And there's heavy construction apparently, like right there. I thought I was in a quiet corner. I love someone mentioned Joe's trying to hide the fact that he's at the Gigafactory right now. There's a lot more I'd like to share. Like I actually didn't even talk about construction and how the Gigafactory is built out in 90 days. But if this is really core to your business, please take the Agile Hardware Developer course. If you're professionally curious, maybe this blog in the coming podcast, maybe this conversation in the coming podcast is enough for your curiosity. Well, I'll see you on Twitter. And it's an honor and a privilege to be here with SFBABAM. Please tweet. I'm also on LinkedIn or Facebook if you want. Okay, I'm out. I'm sorry. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So yes, we will make sure that all these questions are included. Yes, Jeff and I are actually doing a podcast with Joe next week, and we will actually ask more in-depth questions. We will actually have some of these questions as feeding in as well, and Joe is going to answer. And we will tweet Joe. Joe is really good at answering all these questions on Twitter as well as LinkedIn. So I'll do both for those of you or those of us who don't do tweets. Hopefully you have LinkedIn, and so follow me, follow Joe, and he will be answering questions there. You can see those questions there. All right, so with that said, JF, can you pull up the rest of the poll? I believe we have a couple more questions. All right, how engaging was this meetup? Sorry that it has to cut short.
And as Joe said, please be honest. This is all about reflection and retrospection.
All right, I'm going to give you guys a few more seconds, maybe 30 seconds to finish. So the poll is actually in Slido. And here is the link again, in case you can't access that or you don't know where it is. All right. And I think we have one more question. Is that right? Okay, let's move on to the next one. What is the one thing you're going to take away from this meetup?
While people are answering this question on Slido, I did see a question about the podcast. The podcast name is Our Agile Tales, and you can go to ouragiletales.com to look for it. We are on Spotify, as well as Amazon Music and Apple iTunes. So look for Our Agile Tales.
Sleep more. I like that. One takeaway, sleep more. Meditate more. One takeaway, I hate drills. Okay. All right, I'm gonna wait a couple more seconds. Hope. I like that. Think outside the box. Need more agile learning. Look at that. Hardware DevOps is a thing. Indeed. More chat, less meetings. Kill the meetings. Wow. Self-management. Okay. Thank you so very much. I hope that you do get something useful out of this. I am so sorry that we have to cut short. So for the podcast, it is our agiletales.com. You can find it in Spotify. Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, Google. And I will also email for all of us who attended today. I'll email you guys when the podcast is ready so that you can actually get to the link and you can actually go listen to it. I will definitely comb through the questions here to be included into the interview next week with Joe. And we'll be going actually a deeper dive into it as well for some of the things. All right, so here are 3 upcoming events that we have for SFBABAM. So next month in September, Beate is actually introducing us to Beyond Budgeting. And then in October, we have Gabby Benefield and Ryan Shriver, Innovation in the Wild. So the 3 real life stories of innovation, including how it's done during the pandemic. So you don't want to miss it. And in November, Stephen will be talking to us about change the way we change, integrating bold visions and harsh realities. So we hope to see you next month. Thank you so very much for coming. And that's it. We are giving you half an hour back. Bye-bye.